Oh my gosh, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Welcome to Astrology for Mystics, where it's a Monday morning. Oh my gosh. Y'all, it was the weirdest thing because my mic was showing up as my mic, but it has some other numbers next to it. And when I first started the stream, it was almost like a black screen came up, and I got the heebie jeebies thinking that somebody was getting into my computer. It was very weird. Very weird. Thank God y'all can hear me. I'm like, "What is going on here? What is going on?" So 30 minutes later, welcome y'all. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. I wanted to discuss, and I want to discuss, and I'm going to discuss the warrant, the search warrant. There's a completely different search warrant that was served and sealed on February 7th. So it's separate from the Bullhorn Betty stuff. Let's just get that out in the open here. Nerdy Addict, his videos were pretty clear. I mean, very clear. Where Chris even said that the sealed warrant, his attorneys don't even know what the probable cause is. So I want to make sure that we are understanding that we're all on the same page because the warrant is so different. This search warrant is so different. So here in Tennessee, I don't know about other states, but here in Tennessee, people are like, well, if they would voluntarily just hand it over, what difference does it make? Well, if it were to go to trial and they use any of this that they seized as evidence, their attorney could deem it as unlawful. So they had to go to the judge, and I say they, the investigator would have to go to the judge, present the calls, and then it would become sealed. And this is criminal. This isn't civil. This would be criminal for a later day. So if they are building evidence, so if you're building evidence against someone, if it's not sealed, then the attorneys would know what it is that they're looking for, what the probable cause was. And that's not what they're trying to do. So this is a Secret Service type of work. This would be for the Secret Service. And since day one, I've said that Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers connects to the Secret Service, and so does Mrs. Bowersox. For whatever reason, they connect. Sebastian connects to the Secret Service. A lot of people in this case connects to the Secret Service. And so it could have been, we don't know, but it could have been that they found something, they saw something that they hadn't seen before because they're coming a year later. They're coming a year later and they want to take devices. You know, if they've got Katie's phone, there's your reason for why she changed her number, right? I mean, she had to get a new phone. They still have her phone, I would imagine. If they are collecting this as evidence, they're not giving it back. They're going to hold on to it. This is evidence. So whatever that they seized, they feel like is a probable cause for a criminal search warrant. That's my understanding by just a Google search. about the law here in Tennessee. It could be people were like, well, it could be they should have already had that. Well, sometimes it can take a year or more. They've had cases where, I mean, there's been cases where it could be decades. If they're building a case, the DA is wanting certain things to present and to convict. So the DA has one chance and that's it. I was looking back at a video that I did in February, and I was talking about February 2nd through the 12th and how I felt like the law enforcement was working on his case. I talked about Virginia. I talked about the intensity that was taking place at Sebastian's home that we had no idea about. There's evidence and they are collecting it. That's what we see now, that there is evidence and they're collecting it. So, why would they want to put into the house 3 cameras, 1 in Faith's room? And if it's a baby monitor, it would seem to me like if it was a baby monitor, then Nina could tap into it. Anybody with the link. I mean, I've had a baby monitor where I can tap into it, look at my grandbaby sleeping or something, you know? And, yeah, Kimberly, like, I wonder if DA Whitley retired after that. Well, I mean, he's old. It's time for him to retire. But before he retired, and we talked about this too, we talked about this before he retired, that was that was served. A search warrant. A search warrant. So let's take a look. Let me get my browser here. Hold on. Let me get my history back up. I got tons of, well, let's see. Search warrants. Let's go back and look at that. I'm going to share my screen here. Share screen. That way we can be on the same page. Are search warrants different in states? Yes. Search warrants are different in states as each state has its own laws. So in the state of Tennessee, it's going to be different than other places. Federal warrants are issued by a federal judge based on a violation of federal law. State warrants are issued by a state or local judge for violations of state law. Each state has its own set of procedure rules for warrants, while federal warrants follow the federal rules of criminal procedure. So, probable cause. Both federal and state warrants must be based on probable cause, meaning there must be a reasonable belief that a crime has been committed. That's what Google says. Both types of warrants must be issued by a neutral and detached magistrate or judge. Warrants must state with particularity the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. Are search warrants typically sealed in Tennessee? Let's just ask that. And hello, everybody. Hey, Jelly Bee. Hey, Krista. Hey, Kim. Jeff. Hi. Hello to all of you guys. Good morning. In Tennessee, a search warrant and its supporting affidavit are typically not sealed indefinitely, but they are often kept confidential for a period of time while an investigation is ongoing. And we have an ongoing investigation, right? Right. The subject of the warrant is entitled to receive a copy of the warrant and an inventory of seized property after the search is executed. During an active criminal investigation, search warrants and affidavits are often sealed by a court order for these reasons: protection of the investigation. Sealing the documents prevents a suspect from destroying evidence, fleeing, or otherwise obstructing the investigation. Safety of witnesses. If the affidavit contains information that could reveal the identity of a confidential informant, sealing the document can prevent intimidation or danger to the witness. Protection of suspects. Sealing can protect the privacy and reputation of people who are part of an investigation but are never formally charged with a crime. While an investigation is underway, good morning, Tracy. While an investigation is underway, public access to the warrant and its affidavit is generally restricted. This has nothing to do with Bullhorn Betty, okay? This has nothing to do with her. This is something different, and Nerdy Addict told us all. I don't know why we are having a problem understanding that this has nothing to do with Bullhorn Betty. A person or news organization can file a motion with the court to unseal the warrant documents once the investigation is concluded. So nobody can have access to the sealed warrant. Nobody. Nobody. Until after the investigation is concluded. The court will weigh the public's interest in the documents against the privacy interests of those involved and decide whether to unseal the records. And that would be after the investigation is concluded. But as it is, it's an active investigation, and it is assumingly now turned into a criminal investigation or a possible, let's just say that, a possible criminal investigation. Look, they didn't go to that I know of. I mean, I could be totally wrong. I mean, it's not like I have inside information because I don't. But I'm assuming that Chris's phone wasn't taken, just Katie's. There is something about that home with Katie, and it could have to do with neighbors. We just don't know. I can tell you by the map what I think, that there are people that know in that neighborhood, and it's possible that their devices are also a part of this investigation. Following the execution of the warrant, the person whose property was searched or their attorney is typically entitled to a copy of the warrant and an inventory of the items seized, but their attorneys are not. Evidently, according to Chris, his attorneys told them that they are sealed. And then it goes on over here, search warrants are rarely unsealed. Here's why. Search and seizure without a warrant after the warrant has been executed and returned made sufficient photocopies. See, this is the thing. If you get it without a warrant, then it just may not hold up in the court of law. They are following the law. I mean, they are doing everything correctly. They really are. They really are. They're doing it all correctly, it would seem, to make sure that they are doing it in a way that if they do have to make an arrest, that it's warranted and it's gonna uphold in the court of law. It's important to distinguish between search warrants and other types of warrants. Search warrants are often temporarily sealed during an investigation. Arrest warrants for active criminal cases are generally considered public records. Some warrant information, such as an outstanding arrest warrant, can even be accessible through county sheriff departments or municipal court websites. So the search warrant may only be executed by the law enforcement officer or one of them to whom it is directed, or other persons may aid such. A search warrant is a legal document authorized by a court, granting law enforcement the power to search a specific location and seize evidence. Here again, we're with the state of Tennessee, Rule 41, search and seizure. A magistrate with jurisdiction in the county where the property sought is located may issue a search warrant authorized by this rule. Tennessee courts. Yeah, exactly, Kimberly. One chance. There's one chance. The district attorney general, that would have been Whitley at the time. And assistant district attorney general, that would have been Dean. He's an assistant. Criminal investigator or any other law enforcement officer may request a search warrant. A magistrate may issue a warrant under this rule to search for and seize any of the following: evidence of a crime, contraband, the fruits of crime, or items otherwise criminally possessed, property designed or intended for use or that has been used in a crime, a person whose arrest is supported by probable cause, a person who is unlawfully restrained. Requesting a warrant by electronic means. A magistrate may issue a warrant based on information communicated by telephone or other reliable electronic means. The proposed warrant, the signed affidavit, and accompanying documents may be transmitted by electronic fax transmission or by electronic transfer with electronic signatures. If the warrant is being sought by electronic means rather than face to face, the warrant affidavit shall be sworn to affirm by administration of oath by audio visual means by the magistrate. So I hope that we are understanding why it's sealed. There's a reason why it's sealed. And I think that's a good call, especially with this case, because Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers has many of us that have been since day one invested in where is Sebastian. No matter what side, what parent, whatever, no matter what. We are we are wanting to find Sebastian. Whoever Sebastian would be with or whatever happened, that's what we want. We want Sebastian found. And the facts in this case have been misconstrued and just totally, totally out in left field, man. Anything that is not looking, if we're not looking at Katie, who was the last person to see her son, and we are looking elsewhere, we are distracted. That's the way I feel. Don't have to agree with me, but we are distracted if we're looking at anybody else right now. We don't know what was going on in that household. We know that the marriage was rocky. That is what we have been under the impression, especially with Nina coming out and giving her quote unquote testimony about her experiences. So the officer, whoever it is that wanted that search warrant, must be present and participate in the execution of that warrant. If after notice of his or her authority and purpose, a law enforcement officer is not granted admittance or in the absence of anyone with authority to grant admittance, the peace officer with a search warrant may break open any door or window of a building or vehicle or in any part thereof described to be searched in the warrant to the extent that is reasonably necessary to execute the warrant and does not unnecessarily damage the property. The warrant must be executed within 5 days. So they have 5 days once that search warrant was signed off, they had 5 days to execute it. And they have 5 days for the officer to execute the warrant, to give the person or from whose premises the property was taken a copy of the warrant and a receipt for the property. Shall leave the copy and receipt at a place from which the property was taken. Are we all getting on the same page? We all understand that that there is a reason why this is so different. This is so different. And I promise you, I've looked at the February 7th day. And in February, I talked about it. I will share it after this live. I'll share it and you can scroll through, you can get to it where I begin to talk about February 2nd through the 12th. Intense days for Sebastian. And this intensity is coming even more. We haven't even seen the tip just yet. It's gonna be really intense. It's getting really intense. Can I see when there would be an arrest made or anything? No, I can't. But I've got an idea of some of the people that have been showing up since day one that know or have an idea of where Sebastian can be. Do any of y'all remember a clip where neighbors reported law enforcement being in the home? I don't remember. I don't remember. Yeah, I agree. I mean, Katie, unfortunately, she's the last person to see her son. So we have to look at her and go, where is he? If there's no evidence that he left the house and he's not in the house, then where is he? We have knowledge that every car from, let's see, from the fire station where the command center was to Long Hollow, any car that was going up and down that road, that driver has been spoken to, has been spoken to. And if that's the case, we're looking at a lot of cars, a lot of people, and I don't know that he made it home, but if he did make it home, Sebastian wouldn't have left that house without Katie knowing. And I always said, what there's got to be something that he learned. There's something that he learned. There's something that he found out. I don't know what that would be, you know? Only Katie would know. At this point, only she would know. She holds the answers, in my opinion. These connections that Sebastian has with the Secret Service, the connections that Miss Bowersox has with Secret Service, some of the neighbors, their connections. I mean, it's hard to overlook that. It really is. It's hard to overlook. As this is an active investigation, it would seem like that they are seizing property as a part of this investigation, which is very weird that there is reason to believe that these cameras, that her phone, and maybe even a laptop could hold something, some clues as to what took place that night with Sebastian. So, motion for return or suppression of property. Person agreed by an unlawful or invalid search or seizure. This is where I'm at right here. May move the court pursuant to Rule 12B to suppress any evidence obtained in the unlawful search or seizure. If property was unlawfully seized, the aggrieved person may move for the return of the property. The motion to suppress and or the motion to return property unlawfully seized may be granted under applicable substantive law and except as to the return of contraband if the evidence in support of motion shows that. 1. The search or seizure was made illegally without a search warrant. Do you understand now? There had to be a search warrant. It had to be. Or illegally with an invalid search warrant. So, see, this protects them. This protects them if it were to ever go to trial. The search or seizure was made illegally without a search warrant, or illegally with an invalid search warrant, or any other way in violation of the constitutional protection against unreasonable searches and seizures. A search warrant was relied on, but the search warrant or supporting affidavit is legally insufficient on its face and hence invalid. I mean, they have this is some rules here when it comes to the search warrant. We aren't attorneys, we're not judges, so it does, we have questions, they can easily be answered by Google or talking to an attorney. The search warrant relied on was issued on evidence consisting in material part of willful or reckless misrepresentation of the applicant to issuing magistrate, resulting in a fraudulent procurement. The search warrant does not describe the property seized, and the seized property is not of such a character as to be subject to lawful seizure without a warrant. Or the magistrate did not make an original and two copies of the search warrant, did not endorse on the warrant the date and time of issuance and the name of the officer to whom the warrant was issued, or the serving officer, where possible, did not leave a copy of the warrant with the person or persons or whom the search warrant was served. Do you see how this is? There's protocols here. And there is, in real estate, when I was in real estate, it was always cover your ass, cover your ass, cover your ass. This is, you want to cover yourself. Every transaction that I made, I made sure to cover myself with the documents and that everybody knew, well, my clients knew the process of selling their home lawfully. So we have to cover ourselves, and that's what they're doing. A non-waiver of objection by testimony of defendant as to illegally obtained evidence. A defendant does not waive the right to object to the admissibility of evidence if inadmissible evidence obtained by an illegal search or seizure is erroneously introduced against the defendant and the defendant subsequently testifies to the same evidence but gives it an innocent or mitigating cast as to the charge and denies the charge. That was amended by ordered filed January 2nd, 2015, effective July 1st, and ordered by blah, blah, blah. Are we understanding? Are we on the same page about this search warrant? Smart TV, Fire Stick, yeah. Hey, Ann. Hey, honey. Hey, Veronica. They went back February 7th. February 7th, 2025. So a year later, they went back. They saw something. They saw something. They heard something. Look, they're watching. They're listening. A whole kid is missing. You can bet your ass they're listening. They're watching. They got ears everywhere. They're watching. They're listening. And there was probable cause. And it had to been damn good for them to get that warrant to seize that property. They had to show the judge. They had to bring a case to the judge and say, "This is why we believe that there is reason to take this," and they have to show evidence of why. You know what I'm saying? They have to show evidence. Search warrants, Rule 41B is intended to conform to Rule 41 of the Federal Rules of the Criminal Procedure. Search warrants have traditionally been issued for the seizure of physical items. The rule now allows for a search warrant for persons. For example, a search warrant is now available to search for a person who is kidnapped under circumstances where might not justify a warrantless entry. The amendment also allows for a search warrant to effect an arrest where required by the decision in Seagal versus United States. The commission does not intend to suggest under what circumstances a search warrant is required to effect an arrest, but rather permits judicial authorization for a search warrant where required. Interesting. Interesting, isn't it? Very interesting. This was a year after Sheriff Craddock is the sheriff. A year after, this is DA Whitley before he retired. And I would say possibly Blanton, or he may not, that judge may not want to even touch this case. Property ordered, suppressed, or otherwise excluded from admission into evidence by any general sessions court or court exercising that jurisdiction shall not be returned to any owner or claimant over the objection of the district attorney general or his or her representative. The state must be free to pursue the prosecution to the next level without being stripped of its evidence. The motion under subdivision G is meant to apply only to courts of record of general criminal trial jurisdiction as circuit and criminal courts. Under subdivision G1, the commission intended to say explicitly that the violation of any constitutional provision, such as the Fifth Amendment right, which results by operation of law and violation of the Fourth Amendment protection against unreasonable searches and seizures, may be raised. Do we now understand why, if true, if it's true that the rumor is that she plead the fifth and got a criminal attorney, do y'all understand maybe why she would have done that? You understand why? Can y'all understand why maybe she pled the fifth and got an attorney? Not just a civil attorney, a criminal. If that's true, I mean, it's all rumor, right? Okay. The provision of subdivision H is designed to change the rule. Lester versus State 216 Tennessee, yada yada, which often calls a defendant to waive one right by exercising another. So I can plead the fifth and get me an attorney. Note that the provision applies only when the testifying defendant denies the charge. So I don't know that there was any denying. We just don't know. We don't know if she denied the charges or if she said, I'm not talking anymore. I'm getting me an attorney. This is going sideways. I need to be protected. And I don't blame her for doing that. I would definitely do it too. If I was looking at, kidnapping or something happened, I would definitely yeah. I mean, I would want to me an attorney and not talk. Subdivision C was amended by adding a new paragraph and renumbering what are now paragraphs 3 and 4. New paragraph C allows a search warrant to be obtained without requiring it looks like affiant and the issuing magistrate to be in each other's physical presence during the application issuing process. The amendment to the rule does not alter the requirement that the affidavit must be submitted to the magistrate in writing, regardless of the means of transmission. So that makes sense. Oh, let me go back up. The 2018 amendment removes the word shall and inserts may in the section of the rule regarding the exclusion of evidence and makes Rule 41 more consistent with recent statutory changes. And then there's talks about another case recognizing a good faith exception to the judicially created exclusionary rule, which permits the introduction of evidence obtained when the law enforcement officer's action is in objectively reasonable good faith, reliance on binding appellate precedent that specifically authorizes a particular police practice. Negligent mistakes in wording of search warrants insufficient to invalidate search warrant. So that means that everything has to be specific. There are no exceptions to the law for them when it comes to issuing a search warrant. This is a seizure. This was a seizure. And I would assume that the Tennessee Supreme Court, if it were to go to that, that this is where it would be held at. And I've definitely got this Supreme Court on the map. You can bet your butt I've got it on the map already, right? Wasn't there like 2, 3 black SUV that went to their house? I remember somebody filming neighbor. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. But, I'm wanting us all to be on the same page about the search warrant because there's a difference between a search warrant and a subpoena. They were subpoenaed for Bullhorn Betty. That's different. That took place in April. This was in February, and the law enforcement felt like there was enough evidence. Why is there a sealed warrant after kid goes missing? When a child goes missing, search warrants are often sealed by a court to protect the integrity of the investigation and the safety of those involved. Keeping certain details confidential is critical strategic tool for law enforcement. So when we get upset that they're not talking to us, okay, well, we're not the family. We're not the dad, we're not the mom. I can understand why the mom or the dad would be upset. But again, it's to protect the integrity of the investigation. Every parent, and I've mapped 400 and something people, every parent that I've ever talked to that's got a missing kid says the same thing. Law enforcement doesn't talk to us. We're in the dark. We don't know. And that's unfortunate because we want to know. We want to be able to blame somebody. We want to be able to direct the emotion, right? But it is an open investigation. So, reasons for sealing a search warrant. And this is about after a kid goes missing. To preserve the integrity of the investigation, public knowledge of a search warrant can compromise an ongoing investigation by revealing sensitive details and alerting potential suspects or accomplices. This can give them an opportunity to destroy or conceal evidence. To protect witnesses and victims, sealing a warrant is crucial for the safety of confidential informants or witnesses whose testimony is vital to the investigation. If their identities were revealed, they could be at risk of intimidation or retaliation. If law enforcement believes a suspect in the child's disappearance may flee once they know they are being targeted, a sealed warrant allows police to execute a search and coordinate an arrest with the element of surprise. And I can promise you, they're not going to let us know if there would be anybody ever arrested. They're not going to let us know first. In cases involving organized crime or multiple suspects, police may seal warrants to ensure that all individuals can be arrested simultaneously. Premature disclosure could tip off other suspects. In sensitive cases, particularly those involving minors, like Faith, like Sebastian, sealing records can be done to protect the privacy and dignity of the victim and their family. Sealing a warrant does not hide the fact that a warrant was issued, but it does prevent the public from viewing its details and the probable cause affidavit used to obtain it. The court order is typically required to seal a warrant, and it can set conditions for how long the records must remain confidential. Once a warrant is executed and the police have made arrests or concluded their active investigation, a court may lift that order and unseal the records, making them available to the public. However, the exact timing depends on specific circumstances of the case. Now, let's Google this. How long does it take? Oh, I've already got it. Because I'm thinking that this would be a secret service. This would be a secret service thing. The length of time the Secret Service takes to check devices varies significantly based on the circumstances of the investigation. There's no fixed timeline, and the process can take anywhere from a few hours to several months or even years. Okay, so I want us to get on the same page with this. There's no timeline. I've had people tell me, well, they can do this and they can do okay, well, you know what? There is no timeline. It's going to depend on the investigation and the evidence that's being collected. So, I mean, that's it. Whether the device is being held as evidence in an active criminal investigation, is a part of a border search, or was simply confiscated during an arrest for a separate issue will affect the timeline. For example, if a device is voluntarily provided by a witness, it may be returned relatively quickly. We know that that's not the case, right? They didn't want them to voluntarily do anything. They wanted to cover their ass and get a search warrant to obtain and seize and keep it. If it contains relevant evidence, it may be held until the end of the trial, until the end. The trial hasn't even began, so it can be held until the end of the trial. They don't have to give that stuff back. Chris said that, talking about the data of their phones. Well, they went back. They went back and got Katie's phone, right? Because he was talking about the data and how long it took and all of that stuff. This is what they were talking about. Him and Nerdy Addict about the data dump. But they went back and got Katie's phone. I mean, that's what they're telling Nerdy Addict. And he had whole receipts. He had receipts. Case backlog priority. Just like other law enforcement agencies, the Secret Service digital forensics units can have significant backlogs, especially with hundreds of cases and multiple devices. Priority may depend on the nature of the offense, the available staff, and the current workload. If the device is damaged or locked, it can take significant time for the process. Under most circumstances, a warrant is required to search the contents of a seized device. The time it takes to secure this warrant can impact the timeline. If Sebastian was taken to another country, U.S. Customs Border Protection officers may work alongside Secret Service, have the authority to search electronic devices without a warrant at ports of entry. So at the ports, they can work side by side with the Secret Service. While an inspection can take a traveler's device for just an hour, as described in one traveler's account, it may be confiscated for days, weeks, or months. If the device is being held as evidence in an active investigation, it may not be returned until the case is fully concluded, including any appeals. So even if it were to go into appeals, it's still they're still going to hold it. It could potentially take years, at which point the device may be obsolete. So the US Customs and Border Protection, they can even seize anything at the port of entry. A phone investigation can take anywhere from a few days to several months or even years, depending on the case complexity, the evidence found, the agency's backlog, and the need for a warrant. While the actual forensics analysis might be quick for simple cases, a thorough investigation involving evidence review, legal processes, and potential court cases will prolong the timeline significantly. And if they were to have seized a phone without a warrant, that could have been bad for the DA. The DA is doing everything correct. Point blank period. And so we're just, now we're going to get into redundant information. This is all found online. There is nothing that Nerdy Addict on his channel said that had anything to do with the warrant for Bullhorn Betty. This is about cameras, devices, and it's not about, look, if it was just okay, well, people come into the house, recording the house or what have you, they don't need to look at Faith's camera. And I'm very surprised that Chris even said any of this stuff to Nerdy Addict. I'm surprised that because loose lips do sink ships. You know, that's Navy talk for you. Loose lips sink ships, and he has spoken a lot. He said that he passed the lie detector with flying colors. They all passed with flying colors, but he didn't. We have multiple stories about what she said to Sebastian when he went to bed. There's multiple stories, and I don't know which one is right. Did he say goodnight, puppies? Did he say I love you? Did y'all say y'all love each other? I don't know what you're doing in there, but you need to go to sleep. Yes, ma'am. I don't know which story is correct. And you would think that that would be a really simple, easy to remember the last words that you spoke to your son. Come on, man. I mean, if you're always going back to the last time that you spoke with your kid that's missing, your only son that's missing, you're going to remember what you said. How many interviews do we have of Katie saying different things about what they said? Was it 9 to 12? Was it 9 to 10? Was it 9 to 11? What was really going on? And with all those ring cameras in the neighborhood, I tell you one thing, the maps don't lie. And there's a justice that's going over the neighbor in the backyard. Whatever pain that Katie has, it's going to that house. And it's very interesting too that when I look at the map and I look at where that neighbor has his fate that's riding with the Secret Service, it goes up to Portland. If I have the address correct, I think it's Portland. Maybe it's Greenbrier. Let's see. Let me see. Ah, let's just see. Hold on. Let's see where her house goes to. Because this is very interesting indeed that we are coming up on a time where I think we're going to learn a little bit more. Maybe we won't. I don't know. But okay, so let me see. Let me get her address. Yeah. Yeah, we're going to Portland Boulevard in Portland, Tennessee. That's where we're going. Let me show you all this on the map. Let me show you all this. Yeah, exactly. This is where the North Node is going. And this is not Melissa's house, just so you know. We're on Portland Boulevard. This isn't yeah, where he has been and where he's going with law enforcement. Face values get shaken up here with groups, things of ownership and relationships. The DA. This is the new DA, by the way. This is where he lets go. There's a breakup with a relationship, has to do with devices, has to do with things of ownership. And this is where the Secret Service, this is where they've been and where they're going. So CC, he has his North Node going this way, but the Secret Service has already been here. This is where they've been, and they're going toward a lawful, they're going the opposite direction with their lunar nodes of fate. But nevertheless, this is their fate. And I want you to see how they're all hanging out. They're all hanging out right here. Let's see. Who else we got? See who else we can. Let's see. There's this missing North Node, conjunct Chiron, conjunct Eris. So there's a lot of warring going on. Lots of warring going on. Oh yeah, there's a school here or a park. It's the Portland Greenway, the park right through here. Just saying it's awful. It's wild to me. Let me turn off these addresses and show you another place because this is where here's where Kathy matches the Secret Service. But the problem is if we are going back down to his home, if he made it home, and this map is the one from if he made it home, they're all riding right here. And there was an open manhole here. And this is where Kathy matches the Secret Service. And the only reason why Kathy would match the Secret Service if she has or will have one day be given over her devices as well. And if the Secret Service hasn't went to her yet, well, here's your clue, here's your cue. It's time. Not that Mrs. Bowersox would know anything, but if she did know something, no matter what time she is born, all of her problems, all of her problems is transformative for the Secret Service. It transform all of her problems are the Secret Service transforms all of those problems. There's a lot of action with the Secret Service and the values of Sebastian. His Pluto in Capricorn matches the Secret Service times 2. I mean, times 2. Faith matches the secret. There's a lot of them that matches the Secret Service. Prayers for Sebastian and Seth. Yes, Tracy. I agree. I agree. But this goes on up. I mean, we start here, right? We start here. This is where the Secret Service is matching Mrs. Bowersox. I mean, we can talk to the neighbors. If the neighbors are ever watching, I mean, feel free to reach out to me. But this is where the DA learned something, and there's a justice. The DA is learning something about this property, about these cameras. The missing Chronos. There's a lot of problems here, a lot of emotions about hidden sex, other people's money, things that are hidden that is looking out, that is looking in their back window. This is where the North Node, this is the fate of the DA. It's going over this home into Kellyanne. I've talked about this so many times, but the Secret Service shines in Cancer with groups conjunct Mercury. So look, the Secret Service is going right over his house. It has anything and everything to do with home, with emotions, with things that are hidden. And then there's Mercury. What is Mercury? Devices, honey. It's about two or more. It's about communications. And what does the Secret Service do? They excel in communications. Kathy, her Mars and Venus in Cancer matches the FBI. Kathy's Venus conjunct Mars is pertinent angle. So if there was a vehicle, anything going on, I think that this man, whether or not, there's rumors that there was an affair and all that stuff. We don't know. We really don't know. We don't know. Only Katie knows what she was doing when Chris was out of town, who she was talking to, and who was talking to. Because Chris, I mean, this man, his fate is going up to Portland Boulevard. For some reason, she was, the sisters, they were all, hanging out with Katie that weekend. So you tell me. I don't know. There's a lot of emotions here about the health, about the health. Faith, her moon, is challenging communications, challenging two people with communications. And that ninth house is the courts. Could have something to do with religion. It could have something to do with courts. But look, her Mars is in Gemini. That's the DA. Eric Craddock. Oh, he has pain. He shares pain here. This opposing force wounds Eric because he doesn't see the connection when there is one. So that I would say is telling us that the connection, he found it. He found some type of connection and he wanted a warrant. Well, I mean, that's the rumor that he didn't turn over footage, but we don't know that. We have no idea. It's all rumors. At this point, it's all rumors. I've got everybody and their mamas and daddies and all of their look, even past tenants, past homes that Kathy has sold. I've got it all. I've got their associates, I've got family members, I've got this map is ridiculous. It's the most ridiculous map I've ever created, and I probably ever will create. Just saying. But they shine here. Secret Service is shining here. Now let's look at the parents. Let's just look at all the parents. Let's see if there's any parents that are showing up here. Let me take the DA off. Let's just look at the parents for a minute. Let me take Faith off because I only have 3 angles for her. Let's see. Parents. Okay. All right. Let's go down further. I want the other one. Shit. So Katie also has pain that she's sharing. So Katie and Eric Craddock are sharing pain here together. If I'm looking for a missing child, I want to go to the mother. I want to go to her birth chart and I want to find her Chiron. I want to find her Chiron because that's where she's holding the pain. Seth is holding the pain with the Secret Service and Kathy, where I just showed you. But for Katie, oh man, she's got the pain going here. And it's Jupiter. It's Jupiter. Jupiter is expanding. Jupiter expands this wound. It's expanding it. Anything that Jupiter touches, it's going to expand. And when we think of Jupiter, we got to think of the law enforcement, higher learning, higher courts, the Supreme Court. This is where there's a lot of emotions, a lots of emotions. If Chris was going off, if he was freaking out, whatever Chris was doing, this camera is going to catch it. And then it's going to bring him a wake up call about the investigation because that's what Palace and Capricorn is going the opposite direction. There's an opposition here with home, with emotions, and with a shakeup, with authority. And who's the authority here? It would be Chris Carr. He would be that authority. I think it's a rumor that she was cheating or whatever, and I don't know. Maybe we're gonna find out that it's true. I don't know. Seth rises in Cancer, but he descends here with relationships. Seth is rising here. He rises here. Everything about this man's house, everything that took place at that home, Seth is rising here. That means that this angle is all about Seth's life path with this home, and it goes to this home as well, the 1016, Kellen. This is where Seth has a reigniting of the flame of life, things that took place in the past at that home with Katie and Chris, things of the past. This is where Seth and the TBI match. The TBI is matching right here with communications and the justice. And this is where he receives leads. There was a lot of talk about honeysuckle, right? Which is right through here. So all of that information that we just talked about, here's the challenges. Here's the opposition here on honeysuckle. This is where Seth is going to descend with relationships. This is where Katie hides things. But but she also has limits and obstacles with authority here. And this is where Chris gets shaken up. He gets a wake up call and it's knocking on the door, the wake up call. Here's the Secret Service, Mars and Leo. This is in their first house. This is about children. It's going to be this angle. It's this angle that I'm really interested in if I wanted to find Sebastian. I'm really interested in this one as well. But if you can see, this is where the North Node, the fate with the Secret Service is going, and this is where CC has already been. You can see that I've got different addresses, different places that I've checked out because I'm local, right? I'm local, so I'm gonna, I'm local. Catholic school right there, John Paul Catholic school. I mean, we just got all kinds of places. The Cumberland, Lanier Park. Past address for Kathy. Huh. Past address. You don't say. There's Elm Street, East Maple, Forest Park. Past address. Let's look at the missing. Let's look at Kathy, old DA, new DA, Craddock, law enforcement agencies. Let's just see who all's here. So we have the Secret Service. This is the third house of communications. Third house of communications. We got the TBI. TBI has an intense experience here with justice. And there's limits and obstacles here for Tennessee and their relationships with the government or with other agencies. Other agencies. Of course, we could keep going. We could keep going on down. We could look at all these addresses. We could talk about it till we're blue in the face. But the thing is that Miss Thing that lives in Portland, I don't know what her relationship is with all of this, but I'm very curious now because we have all the agencies. We have Tennessee. Tennessee is magnetized at a critical degree, possibly head wound. This is y'all. Tennessee is learning something, and they are magnetized here in the fifth house of kids and school, and it's in Aries. The DA is here. The Secret Service is here. The TBI is here. Faith is here. Mr. Carr is here. The FBI is descending here. They're going to ride the same line with Terry Bowersox. And this is the missing North Node. So this is I just wonder what her relationship is. I'm very curious. Very curious. Kids and law enforcement meets here with groups. Hmm. You don't say. This conjunction with Sebastian, this is in his fifth house of kids and Aries as well. There's a lot of warring here. Lots of warring with the flame of life that is going to continuously reignite conversations going here. And this conjunction, as you can see, is here and here. This conjunction is covering all of this area right through here. The maps don't lie. People lie, but the maps don't lie. They're not going to lie. We may misinterpret them or something like that, but they're not lying. And I'm just curious about her. The other thing that I thought was interesting too is that this is going over right over it. Y'all know what that is, right? That's an airstrip. It's Airport Road. Found that interesting. That it's going right over the airstrip right there. Huh. Any pilots? Any pilots in the area? Anyway, I just wanted to come on here for a little bit, guys, and talk to you about what it really means for a search and seizure. And The way that I understand it is the way that I've explained it to you guys. And I we can be all on the same page. And if I'm in error in any way, please leave a comment. Let me know how I'm in error. I'd be more than happy to admit if I'm wrong, but everything that I'm looking at, that I have been looking at, is very specific on why this search and seizure is sealed. They're building a case. And when I get off of this live, I'm going to share my February reading because from the 2nd of February to the 12th, I talked about it. Some of my old lives are private for reasons, but this one is not private. And I'm going to share it with you guys after this. I'm going to share it. So if anybody wants to rewatch what I'm talking about, feel free to because it's showing the credibility of how I read astrology. And I'm only getting better. I'm only getting better each day. I'm only getting better. And that's that. That's that. I was going to have this as an open panel. If there's any of you that want to join and just talk about some of the things that we went over, I've got about 20 minutes and I'm going to put the link here. If you have a channel, you're more than welcome to share it on your channel. You don't have to, but definitely feel free to link up right here. And I got about 20 minutes if anybody wants to discuss what we've went over this morning. Anyone. Anyone that wants to join, feel free, just link it up. You don't have to show your face, you can just use your avatar. But I think that this really needed to be discussed because there is such a difference between a that warrant that was served in April, the subpoena, and the seizure. That is so different, y'all. It's so different. And I'm so glad that they did seal it because we would be having a field day right now. Thank you, me and you. Thank you so much, babe. Thank you so much. Thank you, Veronica. I appreciate y'all. Yeah, the hybrid astrologer. There you go. I mean, I'm just different. The way that I read astrology is different. I'm different. And that's okay. We all bring something to the table, right? But it's interesting because that February reading that I did from the 2nd to the 12th, I talked about Virginia. I had no clue that at that time that Seth had been to Virginia because he doesn't tell me things. Loose lips sink ships. And look, Clue and Cletus allegedly knew and didn't want to say anything. I didn't know. Jeff didn't know. We did not know. And there's a reason for that. You know why? I'm going to tell you. Loose lips sink ships. That doesn't tell me things like that, and he shouldn't. There are other things that have taken place that we, the people, have no clue about. None. And for good reason, because that is going to protect the investigation. Seth has said it since day one, and I'm going to repeat it again. If the law enforcement has not done everything that they can to find Sebastian, Whether you're looking into him, whether you're looking into Tom, Dick, and Harry that he knows, you're failing his son. At the same time, they may already have a very, very good idea of what happened, and they don't need to do anything other than what they're doing to find out where Sebastian Rogers is. You understand what I'm saying? There's a reason why the TBI and them didn't want to they wanted Katie to take the lie detector test. They took Katie's phone. They're looking at Katie. I mean, gosh, this is evident. I mean, or they're looking at somebody that Katie could have talked to, or let's say that it has nothing actually to do with Katie. Let's just hypothetically say that it may not have anything to do with Katie. Maybe it has to do with Sebastian on her phone, getting into people that Sebastian may have talked to online via her phone. We don't know. I think that that's a little far fetched, and I'm really trying to reach here to give her the benefit of the doubt because I would hate to think that she did anything nefarious. She doesn't appear to have a missing son. I mean, we've talked about that. Her behavior is very suspect, doesn't make her guilty, and everybody is innocent until proven guilty in the court of law. And we have to be very careful where we walk a fine line when we are publicly talking about certain cases, especially one that is as big as Sebastian's, right? We have to really be mindful about the things that we say. We really do. So if anybody wants to jump up here, feel free. I got about 15 more minutes, 20. Yeah, I still got about 15 minutes if anybody wants to come up and talk about what you think with your opinion. But I just wanted to make sure that we're all on the same page here. In case anybody forgot, they admitted walking in neighborhood with night goggles and neighbor described them in the beginning. Yes. Oh my God, I forgot about that. I forgot about that. I sure did. I wonder who that was. Was it Chris? Do you remember? I forgot about that. Hope floats. Forgot about that. Let's see what? Remember called night goggles. Was it after Sebastian went missing or before? Oh, thank you, Kiki. Thank you so much. Thank you, girl. Thank you so much. I think I mean, yeah. Oh, okay, gotcha. Okay. Okay. Okay, get okay. Now I remember. Yeah, it came from Bobby. Yeah. And it's like everybody wants to throw her and her kids under the bus. Can anybody ask Bobby? Who's got connections to Bobby? Let's find out from Bobby if they have seized anything from her house. You know? Would she even tell us now? Would Bobby even tell us if they seized anything from her house? Would the neighbors tell us anything about their cameras if anything's been seized from their house? Oh my gosh, that is so nice. That is so nice. Yeah, she texted me when she got home this morning. She just drove straight through. It was a pleasure to have her here. I'm so glad that she was able to see the places that she talks about. I'm glad that she was able to get this experience for herself. We did, let me show another place on the map. Let me show another place, just a second. Oh, let's see. Let me show another place on the map where we walked because I think that this was I've talked about this area. Let me turn off everything. Hold on. So it's not overwhelming because you can turn off tabs. So it's not so overwhelming for you when you're looking at the map. Oh, whoops, family. Let's see. DA. Let's look at this. So from the Texas Roadhouse, I've got 2 maps. I've got one from the Texas Roadhouse, and I got one leaving from his home. So I've got 2 maps. Well, I know for sure. Let me take Mr. Proudfoot off that she and I, Jeff, we drove from where's the Texas Roadhouse? Let's just go ahead and so from the Texas Roadhouse, from right here, she would have went Drake's Creek, took a left on stop 30. All right, so I've got an address here. Mr. Neighbor has a friend that lives here. Got a whole friend that lives here. But anyway, we went here because look, the cameras, once you get here, right? Once you get to New Shackle, it's going to this little highway right here, we're going to come into a bunch of cameras. So if we want to leave Texas Roadhouse, pass him off to somebody, do something, whatever, kick him out of the car, whatever. I mean, we could go here, of course, but we could also, well, you're going to have cameras up there too. But this is the only place right here is the only place that you could hide somebody, hide a vehicle, hide a drop off, and this is a substation. And there is a lot of terrain right there. Let me show you. This is it. And you see all these woods? You see all these woods? All of that is open. You can even drive a car. Look, you can come down here. We stopped here. But if we wanted to, we could have kept driving. We could have just drove all the way. I'm just saying, we found a lot of bones, lots of bones, lots of bones, almost like, um, it was a drop off of, like if, like a hunter got a deer, what do you call it, Jeff? Poaching, what do you call it, Jeff? Something about, like a poaching dump. But we saw a lot of bones, and it freaked us out at first, but we could definitely tell that they were animal. We could definitely tell that they were animal. So this is interesting because this is the only place, look, there's the new DA. The DA is there, going right over it. The missing is going right over it. And so there is reason to believe that this could be a good area to search. Could be a good area to search. What they learn about with health from the past is reflected on this angle. So this is a good place to search. If anybody thoroughly believes that we're looking for an area that is closer to the roadhouse, this is it. This is it. This would be it. There's Chris. He's here. Katie's here. I mean, like we're all here. Seth is forced to let go with the law enforcement. I mean, there's a lot. This is the reason why we stopped here. And I showed her this area. I have reached out to Michael Silver's on the scene. He likes to have areas to search, even though we are kind of on we kind of believe, that Sebastian is still with us, but he's somewhere else. He's not deceased, waiting to be found. However, with that said, if anybody wanted to search, you would search the waterway from Drake's Creek going all the way down to the Cumberland. You would search this area for sure. For sure. This would have been a great drop off, a great meeting area because once you get through here, you come to this intersection. There's no cameras at the intersection that we could see, but there's definitely cameras here. And there's going to be ring cameras all the way up. There's going to be cameras going all the way up New Shackle, all the way up. New Shackle. There's a house here. Oh, this would be an area if we wanted to search the creeks. Yeah. Here we go to the Secret Service though. So going up to New Shackle, here would be the Secret Service. There's a church here and there's a church here. This is a big mega church. And there's a church here. This church, let me just tell you what it is, just in case anybody's wondering if it's a missionary church. It is. It's a missionary Baptist church. St. John Missionary Baptist Church. And Long Hollow is also a missionary church. So we've got 2 missionary churches here. All of those lines that are going over the neighbor's house is going over this church and this creek. That's the reason why I've got a search area here. So once we clear that search area, that circle's gonna come off. See what I'm saying? There's the lodge, the Masonic Lodge, there's Beach Christian Life Center. All of this is owned by that church, by this church. There's a pond here. Information talked about during missing event is found here, and it is. Anyway, I hope you found this live informative, especially after I was having so much problems with the audio. I'm glad that I got that situated. So I'm going to have to jump off here. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me. I really do. I think that we got a lot to talk about. We just got a lot to talk about. It's just great when we can all be on the same page, right? Got to be on the same page because we have to understand what the difference is between warrants and why it would be sealed. Why would the probable cause is sealed? I appreciate you guys, really. Thank you so much. And I'm going to end this stream with Sebastian's anthem. Peace out, guys. Thank you so much.
Clean like your soul, won't be forgotten. We stand strong for you, never give up. Seek justice and truth. Day and night we search. Community gathers, wipe the tears away. Rise up for you, Sebastian strong. Sebastian's army, we march on. Each day comes and goes, hope in our hearts. You're never alone, we'll bring you home. Wish it was a dream, babe. It lingers on, but strength we carry will keep you strong. Rise up for you, Sebastian strong. Sebastian's army, we march on. and ghosts, hope in our hearts. You're never alone, we'll bring you home. Wish it was a dream, hey, it lingers on, but strength we carry will keep you strong. Rise up for you.